My 17-year-old son spent 3 days prepping for 23 guests for my mom's engagement dinner. My brother texted last minute. We've decided to host it at the yacht club. It's adults only. I didn't argue. I did this instead. 15 hours later, the doorbell started ringing. I still remember the smell of caramelizing onions and rosemary that filled the house that Thursday afternoon. My son Leo had been cooking since sunrise. Literally. I'd come downstairs at 6:30 and found him already peeling apples in silence, earbuds in, face set with laser focus. My name's David. I'm 44. I live with my husband and our son Leo in Ithaca, New York, where I run a custom cabinetry shop out of our converted garage. But that week? That week belonged entirely to Leo and his culinary mission. For 3 days, the kid worked like a professional event planner with a vendetta. He made a spreadsheet with the menu, prep time, dietary restrictions. He printed little menus on thick ivory cardstock, engagement dinner for Nan and Robert, with a hand-drawn gold heart in the corner. He even used twine to tie each one with a sprig of thyme. He was 17, and he'd never seemed more alive. Did you already finish the mushroom tartlets? I asked, standing in the doorway with my coffee. Leo looked up from the stove, where he was stirring a saffron risotto. Yeah, froze them last night. We're pulling them an hour before guests arrive. You remember Nan's gluten-free, right? I do, I said. But apparently you've got it covered. He grinned. I wanted to nail this. It's her engagement. It's beautiful, Leo. I paused. You're beautiful. He blushed, shook his head, and kept stirring. The dining room had already been transformed. He brought in the neighbor's antique candelabra. There was a deep green runner on the table and white hydrangeas in a clear glass vase. Plates stacked neatly. Name cards written in gold ink. He even arranged a low centerpiece to not block anyone's view, something he'd read on a food blog. I was watching him slice the final layer for the lemon lavender cake when my phone buzzed. Ben, dinner moved. Yacht club. Adults only. Sorry, short notice. I stared at the message. Ben is my brother. The one who always finds the shortcut. The charm. The way to make everything seem like it was no one's fault. He's also the family favorite. The man everyone consults before decisions, even when those decisions should have been run by others. Everything okay? Leo asked without looking up, his piping bag full of whipped ganache. I looked at him, his apron dusted with flour, the concentration in his brow, the way he was placing each raspberry with such care. Yeah, I said. My voice cracked slightly, but I smiled. Everything's great. He hummed as he worked, plating the last batch of individual pavlovas. His curls were sticking to his forehead. His hands were trembling slightly, not from nerves, but from the adrenaline of someone chasing something bigger than themselves. I wanted to stop him, to say something, but I couldn't do it. I watched him take out the cake. It said, in his careful lettering, "To new beginnings." He set it in the center of the table, adjusted it half an inch, then stepped back. It's perfect, I said, barely above a whisper. Leo beamed. And I stood there, my phone buzzing again in my pocket, a second message from Ben with a photo of a yacht deck already filled with laughing relatives and champagne. Leo didn't see it. He was busy lighting the candles. I waited until Leo went upstairs to shower before I stepped out onto the porch with my phone. My hands were shaking. I didn't know who I was angrier at, Ben, my mother, myself. I called my dad first. He picked up on the third ring. Hey there, what's up? The dinner, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Leo's been cooking for 3 days. You knew that. When were you going to tell me you moved it? He was quiet for a second. It wasn't my call, but you went along with it. It just made more sense, he said. Robert's old college friends are in town. They're members of the club. It was an opportunity. I closed my eyes. You didn't think Leo deserved a say? It's not about Leo, he said, a little too quickly. It's a grown-up event. I hung up. Next call, my mother. Oh, sweetheart, I meant to text you, she said when she answered. Everything got shifted around so fast. Mom, Leo made custom menus. He planned a 4-course meal. He hand-cut place cards. You couldn't call. It's just, we didn't want to hurt his feelings, she said. I actually laughed. Right. So instead, you just ghost him and go sip champagne on a yacht. You're overreacting, David, she said, her voice turning clipped. It's an engagement. We're allowed to celebrate how we want. I didn't say anything. I just ended the call. Last one. My sister, Molly. She answered on speakerphone. I could hear wind and voices behind her. Hey, we're already here. Isn't the view insane? Molly, I said, did you seriously think this was okay? What? Leo. The dinner. The food. The cake. You know he's been planning this for weeks. There was a pause. Then she said, I mean, it's not like we asked him to. He just started doing it. I felt something cave in my chest. He's 17. Exactly. He'll get over it. I ended the call without another word. When I walked back inside, Leo was in the kitchen, hair wet, wearing his clean button-down and jeans. He was carefully unwrapping the cake dome. His eyes lit up when he saw me. I was thinking, he said. We served the salad course with that lemon vinaigrette. It's sharper than the raspberry one, and I know Nan prefers citrus. He glanced over at me and paused. What's wrong? I couldn't answer. Instead, I watched as his eyes drifted to my phone on the counter. It lit up with a photo notification from the family group chat. My brother had just posted a picture of Nan and Robert laughing under string lights, surrounded by white tablecloths and crystal glasses. Leo tapped it open. He scrolled. One photo, then another, then a boomerang of someone pouring champagne. His face didn't change. He just stared for a moment. Then he locked the screen and set the phone down. He turned toward the cake, smoothed the icing along the side with the back of a spoon. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just stood there, staring at the words he'd written in white chocolate, "To New Beginnings." I stood in the hallway for a long time after Leo went quiet. The air inside the house felt still, like something sacred had just cracked, and we were both pretending not to hear it. He didn't move from the kitchen. Just stood there, hands braced on either side of the countertop, eyes fixed on the cake. I didn't go to him. I wanted to, but something told me he needed the silence more than another voice telling him how to feel. So I went out to the garage to my shop. I needed to breathe. The scent of sawdust hit me like an old memory. I turned on the light and sat down on the bench I built with my own father, the one he called sturdy enough to last, not pretty enough to brag about. That was his whole philosophy. Growing up, I was the quiet kid, the one who didn't shine. My brother Ben had the grades, the jokes, the charm. I had a spiral notebook full of cabinet sketches and a habit of sanding wood until my knuckles bled. Law school, my dad had said one night after dinner, when I told him I wanted to work with my hands. That's how you make something of yourself. Not screwing around with a table saw. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I just nodded and started building a life he would never understand. And here I was, all these years later, watching it happen again, this time to my son. Leo had that same fire in him, that same hunger to create something precise and beautiful. He didn't care about being the center of attention. He cared about getting it right. I'd seen it in the way he tested 4 types of vinaigrettes for one salad course, and how he rewrote the dessert menu 3 times because he wasn't sure the dark chocolate would pair well with the blood orange mousse, and how he watched our neighbors' reaction when they sampled his crostini, not for praise, but to see if the rosemary was too much. And now, like me, he'd been told, not in words, but in actions, that his passion didn't matter, that it didn't count. I leaned forward, hands on my knees, heart sinking. I'd spent years building a different life, a different home, a different future. But somehow, despite everything, the same old message had seeped in. Leo wasn't good enough for the table. Because neither was I. It was just after 9 when my phone buzzed again. I was back in the kitchen, pretending to wash dishes while Leo wiped down the counters with a quiet, mechanical rhythm. The notification glowed up at me like a slap. Your Chase business card was just charged $1,783.90 at Cayuga Yacht Club. I stared at the screen. I read it twice. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and just stared. They used my card. My family didn't just exclude Leo. They didn't just ghost us. They didn't just move the party without notice. They funded it with the same business account I used to buy lumber and glue and finish nails, the account tied to the business I'd built with scarred hands and 10-hour days. They used me. They took my son's dream dinner and paid for their replacement soiree with the money I'd earned. A chair scraped behind me. Leo looked over. You okay? I nodded, my mouth dry. Yeah. He glanced down at his phone again. Another picture in the group chat. Laughter. Napkins folded into swans. A caption from my sister, pure magic tonight. Leo looked at me. They're posting everything in the family chat. Do they think I'm not in there? I had no answer. Instead, I got up, walked to the hallway closet, and pulled out a stack of old flyers I'd used to advertise my shop around town. I dropped them on the kitchen table and flipped one over to the blank side. Then I picked up a pen and started writing names. Who do you think we can get here in 30 minutes? I asked. Leo looked up, confused. What? 30 minutes? An hour, max? Anyone who ever came to your birthday parties. Anyone from school who loves food. Neighbors. My clients. The woman who teaches yoga down the street. His eyes searched mine. You want me to? You're going to serve this meal, I said, voice low but steady. Not to them. To people who actually show up. He blinked, stunned. But the plating isn't. I don't care if we eat it off paper towels. I'm not letting your food go cold for a bunch of people who couldn't send a single decent text. Leo didn't say anything for a second. Then he stepped forward and grabbed a pen from the drawer. Colin from school, he said, scribbling. He's always asking for kitchen tips. And Teresa from the salon, I added. She always raves about your pastry photos. Within minutes, we had 2 pages of names. I took photos with my phone and started sending messages. Group chats. Texts. Even a few DMs. I didn't lie or soften it. I told the truth. My son cooked a gourmet dinner for his grandmother's engagement. The family canceled last minute and used my business card to throw a private party without him. Food's ready. We have candles. If you're hungry and kind, our door is open. And then I hit send. Over and over. To everyone who ever showed us a little warmth. Let them come. Let them eat. Let them see. It started with one car. An old Subaru, headlights dim, parked just a little crooked in the driveway. I peeked through the window and saw Teresa from the salon climbing out, holding a bottle of white wine in one hand and a store-bought bouquet in the other. Then came another. And another. Within 15 minutes, our quiet little street looked like someone was throwing a block party. Leo stood frozen at the kitchen window, spatula still in hand. That's Mr. D'Angelo, he said, pointing. He owns the hardware store. I nodded. He bought that walnut sideboard from me last year. Leo turned to me, eyes wide. You really invited all these people? I shrugged. They deserved a chance to say yes. At the door, I opened to a stream of familiar and half-familiar faces. Friends. Neighbors. One of Leo's classmates, the quiet girl with the braces who always lingered by the snack table at school parties. She brought her aunt. A local journalist showed up with a camera and a wide grin. Is this the protest dinner? She asked, flipping open her notepad. I blinked. Who told you that? Marcy, she said, nodding to a woman I barely recognized. She posted it on her Instagram story. Said the menu looked like it could win a James Beard. Leo stepped back from the crowd as they began trickling into the living room and kitchen, murmuring to each other, sniffing the air, complimenting the place settings like they were walking into a boutique restaurant. He looked overwhelmed. Hey, I said, gently touching his arm. You okay? He swallowed. I don't know if I can do this. This was supposed to be for Nan and Robert. I had all their allergies and preferences and it. This is for you now, I said. Your menu, your night. Show them what you made. Leo hesitated, then nodded once. He slipped on his apron again, took a deep breath, and headed into the kitchen like it was a stage. Okay, he said to no one in particular, pulling the salad components from the fridge. Mache with poached pear, candied pecans, and lemon vinaigrette. Plates in the rack. Let's go. The room responded like a well-trained brigade. Someone started lighting candles. I set out napkins. A neighbor offered to pour wine. As Leo plated, the room slowly went silent. It was the kind of quiet that falls when people are watching something careful and beautiful unfold. He worked quickly but gracefully, a practiced motion to every sprinkle of microgreens, every drizzle of reduction. By the time the main course came out, duck breast with fennel and orange glaze, people were leaning forward like they were watching theater. I saw tears in the yoga instructor's eyes. Halfway through dessert, the blood orange mousse and chocolate cups, the local podcaster showed up with a mic clipped to her phone. Mind if I document this? She asked. Leo looked at me. I raised my eyebrows. He hesitated, then nodded. Sure. Why not? She flipped on her camera. This is Leo, she narrated. He's 17. He spent 3 days planning an engagement dinner for his grandmother. They canceled the day of, but he served it anyway. And tonight, his community showed up. Leo flushed red, but kept plating. The guests cheered when he brought out the cake. To new beginnings, it read. People took pictures. Applauded. Someone whispered, better than the yacht club. I looked over at my son, sleeves rolled up, apron dusted with flour, laughing with someone from his chemistry class, and I felt something in my chest finally settle. The people who mattered were here. The ones who'd left? They were just noise. At 2:03 a.m. Long after the last wine glass had been rinsed and stacked, after the hugs and claps on the back and half-tearful thank yous, Leo sat on the couch wrapped in a blanket, his hair still damp from the dish steam. I was about to head upstairs when my phone buzzed. Push alert, new from Ithaca Plate and Pour, the proposal that wasn't. I clicked it open. It was the podcaster Maria from Plate and Pour, a hyperlocal food and culture blog that covered everything from taco trucks to backyard supper clubs. But this wasn't just a blog post. This was a love letter. She wrote about Leo, a self-taught teenage chef with a dream and a hand-whisked vinaigrette. She wrote about the menu in detail, describing each course like she was reviewing a Michelin experience. But it wasn't just about the food. It was about the gut-punch betrayal. She told the story plainly. That Leo had spent 3 days preparing a gourmet dinner for his grandmother's engagement. That the event was abruptly moved to an adults-only yacht club. That no one told him until the day of. That the family funded the private party using his father's business card. She didn't name names. But she included a blurred-out screenshot of the receipt, time-stamped and clear. The article ended like this. They tried to erase a celebration. But Leo served joy anyway. The guests who showed up weren't blood, but they were family in the truest sense. This wasn't the proposal dinner. This was the real event. And the city should be proud of him. The comments were flooding in. Just read this. Leo, if you're reading, you've got real talent. Who cancels on a teenager like that? Especially after all that effort? Shame on them. My restaurant's hiring summer staff. Someone get this kid in my kitchen. By morning, the story had taken off. People were sharing it across Facebook, Instagram, even Reddit. Hashtag Leo the chef started trending locally. I glanced over at him, still curled on the couch, eyes half closed. I nudged him gently. Hey, I said. You're kind of famous. He blinked, sat up. I handed him my phone. He scrolled. His eyes widened. Then he looked up at me, part stunned, part shy, part something I couldn't quite name yet. You think this is good? He asked. I smiled. I think this is just the start. The knock came just before 11 the next morning. I was sipping coffee at the kitchen table, Leo still asleep upstairs, the house unusually quiet except for the hum of the fridge. I opened the door and nearly laughed out loud. Ben, my mother, Molly, all standing on the porch like they'd rehearsed a little family intervention. My mother wore a cardigan over her shoulders even though it was already 70 degrees out. Ben had sunglasses tucked into the collar of his shirt like he was about to walk onto a golf course. And Molly, arms crossed, lips already tight. We need to talk, Mom said, not even waiting to be invited in. She brushed past me like it was still her house. Ben followed. We've got a situation. Molly brought up the rear. This is ridiculous. I didn't say a word. I just closed the door behind them and walked into the living room. They didn't sit. My mother was the first to speak. This article, that podcast thing, it's misleading. It's gone viral, Molly added sharply. People are sharing it like it's some kind of expose. It's humiliating. You've humiliated yourselves, I said, voice low. Ben stepped forward, palms out. Come on, David. You know how things get twisted online. No one mentioned names, but people are piecing it together. We've had calls. Robert's colleagues are asking questions. Nan is mortified. Leo didn't ask for this, I said. He cooked the dinner. You all abandoned it. That story just told the truth. You're making us look like monsters, my mother said. No, I said. You did that all by yourselves. That's when Molly exploded. This is defamation, she snapped. You need to make them take it down. Or write some kind of statement saying it was a misunderstanding. That Leo knew it wasn't personal. I stood up. He didn't know. Because none of you told him. My husband, Darren, walked in from the hallway then, just catching the end of it. What's going on? They're trying to spin it, I said. Darren looked at the three of them, then crossed his arms. You need to leave. Ben scoffed. Excuse me. You heard me, Darren said. You're not going to waltz in here and bully your way out of the mess you created. We're trying to fix it, Mom said. No, I said. You're trying to cover it. Outside, I heard a phone chime. Then another. A neighbor was standing on her porch across the street, phone in hand, clearly recording. My mother noticed. Is she filming us? I hope so, I said. Let the world see exactly how you treat your own. Ben muttered something under his breath. Darren opened the front door. Out. Now. None of them moved for a second. But something in Darren's voice, calm, solid, final, shook them. Molly turned first, storming out. Ben followed, muttering unbelievable. My mother lingered for half a second longer, looking at me like she didn't recognize the man standing in front of her. Then she left. The door clicked shut behind them. Outside, the neighbor's phone was still up. The video would be on Facebook before lunch. Leo came down the stairs, rubbing his eyes. Was that? Yep, I said. They came for a cleanup job. He looked at me and left with a spotlight. By the end of the week, the video of the doorstep standoff had over 200,000 views. Someone added subtitles. Someone else overlaid dramatic music. One version had Darren's out. Now, turned into a TikTok soundbite. The comments weren't subtle. Imagine shaming your own grandson, then getting mad when it backfires. That man said doors that way, and I felt it in my soul. Leo deserves a damn food truck. Who's starting the GoFundMe? The support didn't stop. It poured in like a faucet left open. Messages from strangers, chefs, bloggers, people who'd seen the article or the video and wanted to help. A small culinary school in Vermont offered Leo a summer internship. A bakery in Syracuse messaged asking if he'd consider shadowing their pastry team. One woman emailed just to say, "Your son made me believe in family again." The backlash against my family was fast and sharp. They tried to do damage control, a vague Facebook post about family misunderstandings and private matters. But it only made things worse. Screenshots surfaced. Quotes from the article. Comments from former coworkers. Even Robert's daughter chimed in on Twitter, not surprised. Nan's always picked image over kindness. And then, just like that, the threats started to fizzle. First, they hinted at suing Maria, the podcaster, claiming libel, misrepresentation, reputational harm. But she'd done her homework. No names, no lies, just a story with receipts. Literally. Next, they tried to guilt-trip me again. A long, rambling voicemail from my mother about how this isn't how families handle things. I deleted it without listening past the first sentence. After that, I blocked every number. Ben, Molly, my mom, even Nan. I scrubbed the group chat from my phone, took down the framed photo of the 5 of us at the lake house, and finally, stopped wondering if I'd ever be enough for them. I wasn't their scapegoat anymore. I was Leo's dad. That was the only title that mattered. We posted a short message together on Leo's new Instagram, just a photo of his dessert plate, with a caption. We stand by the truth. And we serve it with whipped cream. The likes rolled in. And Leo? He smiled. Not a shy smile. Not a guarded one. A real, full smile. The kind that says, I see who I am now. And I like it. 1 year later, the kitchen is quieter. No spreadsheets on the counter. No pans clanging at dawn. Just the hum of the fridge and the smell of coffee as I stand by the window, watching the dog nose around in the backyard. Leo's not here this morning. He's in Hyde Park, just north of the city, first-year student at the Culinary Institute of America. Full ride. Summer internship already lined up at a Michelin-starred spot in Chicago. Last week, he was interviewed for a podcast called Young Flame. They called him a rising voice in American pastry. He FaceTimes every Sunday, always grinning, always with a new burn or a sauce he's obsessed with. Sometimes, I catch him talking with his hands the way I do when I explain with grain to clients. The house is quieter, yeah, but it's a good quiet. He left a box in the hallway closet labeled Old Stuff. Inside, handwritten menus, the twine-tied place cards from that night, a dried-out sprig of rosemary. On the back of one menu, in pencil, note, double lemon zest next time. Every now and then, I take that box out just to remember how it all started, in this house, with that meal, and that awful message from Ben. Speaking of which, they're gone now. Ben and his wife moved to South Carolina. Nan sold her house. Molly shut down all her social media after a short stint of passive-aggressive posting. Not one of them ever apologized. Not even a fake one. And I don't care anymore. I used to think healing meant reconciliation, that maybe someday they'd see what they did to Leo, to me. But now I think healing just means living better without them. They lost access. That was their real punishment. The world didn't cancel them. We just moved on. Darren and I still run the shop. Orders are steady. Sometimes people stop by just to ask if we're the house from the podcast. I smile and nod. They always mention Leo. Is he still cooking? They ask. I always say the same thing. He's just getting started. Then I go back inside, pour myself another cup of coffee, and sit at the table where he plated that first course. Because sometimes, everything does change in one night. And sometimes, that's exactly what you need.